I have a drawing open here, and I'd like to show you MicroSurvey's smart entities. So MicroSurvey smart entities are created as you compute points, lines or polylines, arcs, and labels. And these smart entities will be linked to your points database, and they're designed so that they'll automatically update as you update the database. Let's have a look at a few examples. So in this imported project, if I zoom in, what I'll find is I'll verify that I have grips turned off, and I'll pick on one of the labels or any element in this smart point. When this pops up, I can see the entry in the points database, or I can use the same dialog to edit the features in the points. And the CAD entities that are created will be updated if I edit them. Lines now. Now if I look at this blue line, this is what we'd call a smart entity. When I pick on it, I can confirm that it is smart because I can see connecting from point 166 to 167. This is a smart line because in this case it was created when I was importing a FieldGenius project. But it's also important to point out that any line work that's created using MicroSurvey's various line work creation tools will be by default assigned as a smart line. So we've also got polylines. If I have a look at this curb line, for example, when I pick on it, then the CAD polylines dialog shows up. So on here I can see as I click through each of the various vertexes that are part of the polyline, I can see what the coordinates are of each one. And if I'd like to see the points from which these polyline vertexes were derived, I can pick on previous and next and sort of cycle through the different features. Now because this is a smart polyline, what's special about it is if I were to at some point edit one of the point coordinates, then the polyline itself would be redrawn in X, Y, and Z coordinates. You'll also find that labels are smart. So any of the labeling functions that you perform in the MS Annotate menu, in here in the labels group, most of them will create us what's called a smart label. And so this label here is an example, and I can establish that it is smart if I, for example, edit the position of this point 166 that both the line and the label is based upon. And let's say I'm going to move that point 5 meters to the north. When I pick OK, point protection alerts me that the point is moving. The point moved, the line was redrawn, and you'll see that any labels linked to that line were updated. Now one other feature of smart elements that I should point out is the way that the points are drawn. So by default, what you'll find is that each point will be represented by a point node in the drawing, and then separate text labels will be created on their own layers. That allows you to freeze the layer if you don't want to look at it. A different option is accessible if I go to MS Tools, and if I go to my System Toggles, and I'm going to go to CAD Drawing Controls, and we'll see I've got the option to turn on point blocks. So when I pick OK, now it's going through my drawing, and it's going to find each of the points, and it's going to recreate the point node and the text label, but it'll create them as a block. And now that the points have been transformed into blocks, what I can do is I can turn my grips on now, and now the behavior is different when I pick on a point. When I select any element of that block, you can see that a grip appears at the insertion point, and if I do a right click, I can go to Smart Points, and this gives me a variety of options for rearranging how the point is labeled. In this case, I'll just go to Move Point Label with Leader. That allows me to pick on the element, and I can pull it out, and it automatically creates a leader to show where that point is. So that's a very handy strategy to use for decluttering your drawing, especially when you've got things like lots of check shots in one place or point clusters. Thanks very much for your interest in MicroSurvey Smart Entities.